But the thing is that each of us, in a way, is a spiritual representative of all that have gone before us, which if we understand the prior unity and oneness of our human family, the prior unity and oneness of our human family, that is, we've always been one. It just didn't happen. We're from the same seed, from the very beginning that has really no beginning. That's pretty heavy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So who represents them in this physical world of time and space? We do.
Yeah.
Now, if we went back in our histories, we might find that from whatever cultures we came from, because obviously you can see with my light hair and lighter complexion, there's not all Dakotas and Chickasaws inside me. If we really think about it, every human being comes from that sacred place. And yes, along the way, we've made mistakes, we've gone over here, but all this process, we've been learning. We've been learning. We've been learning.
Hey there, beautiful souls. It's your girl, Allie, and we are back at it again for another episode of Living Life Consciously. We have a very special guest lined up for you today, and I am stoked to get started. So without further ado, Justin, say hey.
Hey there, Cosmic Truth Seekers. I'm Justin. This is Living Life Consciously, where we explore the extraordinary, ride the waves of inspiration, and embark on an adventure of limitless curiosity together. Leslie?
Hello, I'm your co-host, Leslie, also known as Light Being, Love, an eternal spiritual being, having a temporary human experience. And we are very happy to have Chief Phil Lane with us here today. Chief, would you like to say hello to everyone?
My warm love and greetings to each and every one of you, seen and unseen.
Beautiful. Love that. And for our audience, what if humanity's greatest hope for the future lies in ancient wisdom? In this powerful and heart-opening episode of Living Life Consciously, we sit down with Hereditary Dakota and Chickasaw leader Chief Phil Lane Jr., a global visionary who has spent over 50 years uniting Indigenous people and guiding humanity towards healing, balance, and sustainable living. Founder of the Four Worlds International Institute, Chief Phil shares the profound story of how sacred teachings, prayer, and collaboration gave rise to a global movement for human and community development. In this episode, we'll dive into the powerful origins of that work, including a historic gathering of tribal elders in 1982 who came together in prayer and deep reflection to find solutions to the challenges facing their communities and ultimately all of humanity. We'll also explore what Chief Phil Lane calls the fourth way, a path that moves beyond conflict, beyond division, and beyond the systems that no longer serve us, and instead invites us into partnership, unity, and a more conscious way of living.
Yes.
Here for all of that. Chief Phil, thank you so much for joining us today. We are all truly honored, and I really, really mean that. I'm going to pass it over to you if you would like to do an opening prayer.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. O Dakota Wakantaka, creator of the universe, most beloved one, all powerful one, most kind one, most compassionate one, ever forgiving one, O most beloved one, we call upon your holy power that sustains, inspires, creates all things. We give thanksgiving this day for all that's been given to us, the tests and difficulties that help us grow spiritually, the spiritual victories that help us to understand where the red road path is. And creator of all good things, we want to give honor and respect this beautiful day to all the tribes and nations of the east from where comes the red sunrise. They might come together in unity and harmony. And to the south from where comes new life. They might come together in unity and harmony. And to the west from where comes thunder, lightning, and rain, we call upon all those tribes and nations of relatives of our human family together in unity. And to the north from where comes the white snow, the purifying north winds, to purify our hearts and minds. They may come together in unity and harmony, understanding we're one human family. And the hurt of one is the hurt of all. And the honor, the upliftment, the inspiration of one is the inspiration, upliftment, and honor of all. And creator of all good things, we just give thanksgiving to Father Sky and for all the masculine dimensions of ourselves. Each and one of us has these, what's called masculine qualities, creator. And we ask, creator, with all great respect, that we might balance this overabundance of these qualities which brought our human family this time of great, great challenges, great sadness and pain and hurt. But we know at the same time, it's like the birth. We're in the birth canal. And so we honor and humble ourselves before our beloved Mother Earth and all her sacred representatives, womankind. We ask the abuse of women, the abuse of men, the abuse of any human being upon this Mother Earth end forever. As we move from our adolescence as a human family into our spiritual adulthood. Haole mi chante washtelo, Shunkmano Hemedo, Shinupasapa Medo, Haole mi chante washte. My names are Shunkmano and Shinupasapa, and I stand fully responsible for all of my words and my actions. Haole mi chante washte. Aho.
Aho, thank you so much. That was beautiful. I felt that in my soul, man.
Yes.
Calling upon the ancestors. This is, like you said, this is such a trivial time in human history. I feel like the whole planet collectively, the planet herself and all of the beings on it are going through an ascension. And while it's so beautiful, it's also really turbulent and scary. So yeah, I just felt the need to say that.
That was a beautiful prayer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I would like to start, if it's okay with you,
Sure.
at the beginning. Is it cool if you can share a little bit about your background and your childhood and your upbringing
Sure.
within the traditions?
Sure. Let me go back into my father and mother's background. My father was born in a little place called Wakpala, South Dakota, on the Standing Rock Reservation. And that's where he grew up there, and then back at Honktawa, the Yankton Sioux Reservation. Those are the two places he grew up. And then, my grandmother died when he was just 5 years old from tuberculosis. So he's raised primarily by my great-grandfather. His name was Tipi Sapa, Black Lodge, Philip Deloria. So he raised my father along with my grandmother, Ella Deloria, after my grandmother died, because, as you know, in our Indigenous communities, we have extended families.
Sure.
And so someone you might call a cousin is really a brother or a sister. So everybody's kind of a few. In fact, one of the teachings that was passed on to me by my father, he says, "Son, you must not rest until you make everybody you know a brother, sister, mother, father, aunt, uncle, niece, nephew, grandson, grandfather. Then you know exactly how to treat them." That's called hunkab, making relatives.
Mm.
And so from my perspective, and I'll get a little bit more into my background. We really have come from the same source. It's very interesting to me to know the calcium in our bones, the iron in every cell of our body. Those all came from supernovas.
Right.
Right.
I mean, and people say, "What?" Just look it up. It's plain knowledge. We're star beings.
Yes.
We're star beings. Now this Earth suit I have.
Earth suit. I love that.
Yeah, that Earth suit is just very transitory.
Mhm.
So anyway, my mother and father were sent to Haskell Institute. Back in the 20s and after the 1900s. Actually, it was open, I think, in the late 1800s.
Okay.
Was a place in Lawrence, Kansas, where they brought especially children of leadership from various tribes, and brought them there in order to quote unquote kind of civilize them.
Right.
People would have their haircuts and so forth. So same thing that happened as in these residential schools in Canada. Not quite as severe as we found that happened in these schools that were operated by the churches, but it was pretty severe.
Yeah, a lot of travesties for sure.
Yeah, yes, and it really was this coming from this true belief that somehow or another the Indigenous worldview was not how do I say it, was not Christian. It was pagan. It was of the devil, and so forth and so on. Which by the way, I really seriously doubt that would really be if it would really be a teaching, a real core teaching of Christians in the very beginning. I think is to love everybody, to love humanity, not to make judgments. So from my perspective, all these teachers come from the same source. Anyway, so I was born. My mother and father met there when my father, he was 17 and my mom was 13. He said the first time he saw her come into Haskell, he said, "Son," he said, "as soon as I saw your mother, I said, that's the woman I want to marry." And so 10 years later, it took 10 years, he kept corresponding with her and so forth. But he went on and because of my mother, He went on and got a degree from Oregon State University in forestry. Happened to end up hitchhiking out of there, from Haskell in Lawrence, Kansas, back to the Umatilla Reservation with an old friend of his named Boots LaCourse. Then he went up, so he knows a lot of those Northwestern tribes, and that led him eventually into Oregon State, where he was able to get a boxing scholarship and made it through school. And so after that, he saved money. I saved his money. So according to his story, is he had to leave from the Navy. This was in October 1943. So he comes to Sulphur, Oklahoma. That's on the Chickasaw Reservation in Oklahoma. My mother was there. And my grandmother always said, I think you're going to marry that Phil Lane. Oh, my mom said, I don't know. Anyway.
Grandma knew.
My dad said, of course, at Haskell, you couldn't. I mean, it's almost like they had a ruler between you if you even learned to dance. You kind of like, it's like,
Sure.
It was like dancing with a board, because it was very, very, very strict about any kind of. Anyway, but he came back and he had one hand, he had his degree. Plus, he also had saved $2,000, which at that time was quite a bit of money. He says, I've come to claim what's mine. Of course, my mother had a different way of saying it.
Right.
My dad had a great sense of humor. And of course, he and my mother, I mean, like two peas in a pod. I mean, truly. And so that's what happened. He came and he had to leave from the Navy. He came and they married. And then he went back to Pensacola, Florida, where he was in the Navy in World War II.
Yeah.
And I came 9 months later. So I was there with my grandmother, who worked in the post office there at the Haskell Institute, and my mother, my auntie, who worked as a secretary there, and of course my mom. And we had this little one-bedroom apartment there on the campus of the Haskell Institute. And that's where I spent my first years. And it wasn't until about 9 months later that my father got a chance to come out and get a chance to see me. I did have quite an experience with with this kind of the outer world, because when I came into the world, my mother, you got to know that many of these relatives were such pure-hearted relatives that came to these schools, and so they didn't know a lot about this mainstream society. They were taught to trust the doctors and so forth. So the doctor they had, because Dr. Spock had come out, and they just come out with formula, told my mother that even though she had plenty of breast milk, formula is much better than breast milk. So you should give your son breast milk. The problem was he gave her formula, but he didn't give enough to keep me going and keep me alive. So of course I was hungry from the very beginning. I started crying. Okay. And then he called him and said, well, my son's crying. He said, well, don't pick him up. You'll spoil him.
Oh gosh.
And so I laid there in the bed for a little over 2 weeks crying, and then I went into a coma. And they had to take me in and put me in an incubator and so forth and bring me back to life.
Oh wow.
So that was kind of my beginning. And and even that, I have to say that I really do believe that all these things that happen to us, that if we keep praying, if we keep moving to the positive, we'll see and understand that nothing that comes in our path is not for our own perfecting, not for our own growth and development. I mean, even that part of me that longed for connection, that had such a deep feeling for people who are suffering. Because if I wouldn't have had that, I wouldn't have had that feeling for others,
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's the one thing we know, that no matter what we've been through, no matter what we've done, that our Creator, Wakantaka, the great mystery, is ever forgiving. Is ever forgiving. So, of course, my early life, my parents kind of kept to themselves. We would make regular trips back to Standing Rock Reservation in South Dakota and North Dakota. And we'd also travel down to the Yankton Sioux Reservation. I'd also travel back with my mother to family reunions on the Chickasaw Nation in Oklahoma. So, I kept in contact with my family. Now, my grandfathers, who had married my grandmothers, they passed on very, very many years ago. So I never got a chance to meet them. My mother was just a young girl when her father passed away, as well as my father was just a young boy, about 6 years old, when his mom passed and his father left. So that's kind of the world I knew. And I think that really we're at this place where we need to understand that we've got to bring our various worldviews together. We have to bring them together. Now, interestingly, the European languages, the Indo-European languages, are noun-based languages. Noun-based, meaning they see the world as a snapshot.
Okay.
Okay. Now, that means they look at the world from the parts to the whole. And the parts to the whole. And by the way, this research came out in the late 70s, and I studied this research when I was at university. And so I said to myself, okay, then you see all your indigenous languages in the Americas are verb-dominated languages. They see the world as a motion picture.
Okay.
When I went to Bolivia back in 1971 and 72, I was there for 2 years with our dear Quechua relatives. I really learned to speak Spanish from them. I'd taken some Spanish in high school, but I really learned from them. And everything is in the present tense. Estoy caminando. I'm walking. You know, I think that's the word, right? It's been a while since I spoke Spanish. But it's always in motion. So estoy leyendo. I'm reading. They have no past or future tense. It's all right now. So seeing the world unflowing as a motion picture. Now, when I thought about that, I said to myself, you know, I don't want to be a half-wit. I want the whole deal. I want to be able to stop the thing at a snapshot, where without that capacity of the parts to the whole, what we've learned in science, we would not understand. At the same time, intellect without simply without values becomes a Frankenstein. At the same time, simply spirituality or religion without reason becomes fanaticism. So I'm saying that we're learning how to do both. We want to be able to see the world, because what happens is if you only look at the noun-based, oh, I came out, great, look at this great discovery. Wow, look what it can do. But we're not seeing the long run of it. We're not seeing how it impacts. It's just like, you know, it's like this incredible gift our human family has received with AI.
Oh.
On one level, wow, there's so many things that can be done that can uplift our human family. On the other hand, the amounts of energy and water these data centers are using are just absolutely, you know,
concerning,
unbelievable. At the same time, it's like when television came around or other things came around. I mean, are our human families going to have to address this in a good way?
Right.
And yet, here's some tools that can uplift us and take care of a lot of the menial tasks that are going on that humanity is having to do now, that'll allow us to explore deeper and deeper. But that means we have to really know that every single human being on this Mother Earth, every human being is a sacred being. From our teachings, every one of us is a sovereignty, ancient, imperishable, and everlasting. That's who we are. Ancient, imperishable, everlasting. That's our soul. That's that part of ourselves.
Right.
It goes beyond time and space. It goes beyond the world of murmur of syllables and sounds. That's the soul. That's our essence of who we are. So I've kind of gotten off the
No, it's okay.
I love it.
thing. But please, let's pause right there. Any questions you might have? Let's just continue on.
All right. Well, I'm curious, what experiences helped shape your path into becoming a global leader and unifier of people?
It's
You
just
know,
something.
not to interrupt you, but I just had the thought of what happened to you as a baby, and a lot of people do have near-death experiences as, you know, children. Some might recall, some might not, but it seems like most near-death experiences or like spiritual experiences in general do open people up and almost give them that drive. So I could have started from there. I'm answering your own question. I'm so sorry, but if there is more to add, maybe to that.
No, actually, you know, as I begin my path through life, because of what my mother and father experienced and my other relatives, and I really took a lot of time. When I loved to read when I was growing up. And of course, we had no radio at the time. We had, of course, no television until I was, you know, much older. But for some reason, I read everything I could about Indigenous people, about Native Americans, about our leaders. I mean, everything. In fact, always would win in the summer. They had these contests at the library. This little place I lived, a little place called Umatilla, and they had a contest of who could read the most books during the summer. And so I always win that contest because this was something I loved to learn. At the same time, we carry intergenerational trauma.
Yeah.
And so I had a lot of anger in me, a lot of rage, hatred. And of course athletics was my way to kind of work through that, was athletics, football, wrestling, I used to do a little bit of pole vaulting as well. But at a certain place, it really propelled me in athletics because I'd get out in the football field. I think I was playing against the 7th Cavalry, or on the wrestling mat, I was wrestling against General Custer. I really wanted to get him.
Yeah.
I mean, I was really full of hatred and anger. But that destroys you.
Yeah.
That destroys you. No matter if you feel justified, and I felt at times we feel justified. At times things are done, we feel justified. But we're the ones that are hurting when we have that anger and rage and hatred.
That's
And so it brought me down to a place where, I went from winning the U.S. Canadian championships at a big gathering, at a big match they had in Vancouver, where they invited the best wrestlers in the United States and Canada to come, and I just walked through that. At the same time, you can't hold that hurt. So, of course, alcohol. Alcohol. Hurtful relationships to the point where really I was completely broken. It was 1967, the spring of 1967. I was broken. And I just really wanted to give up. And it was then that I had this spiritual experience. And it came from encountering, I'd returned back to Walla Walla, Washington, where I went to junior high school. And I went to see this elder in this great big library. And, I wasn't much of a reader at the time. During that time, I'd been when I was younger. But during that time, I was more interested in covering up my hurt feelings.
All right.
So what happened was I just happened to reach out. There was a little book, had a prayer book, and I opened it up. And when I read these words, all of a sudden a fire just started inside my body, a fire, literally like a fire burning away all this stuff. And that went on, I think it was about a 9-month process. Really, truly. Wow. I ended up going all over the place, ended up over in Europe, back and forth, here and there. And, that kind of might say, helped birth me into a new state of consciousness. At the same time,
spiritual awakening, basically?
Yes, but I believe we go through many of these.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think we just go through one.
Okay.
I believe we go through many of these awakenings. And it's almost like I think this is one of the understandings that I think is so important to integrate. So you have, for instance, these great thinkers like Ray Dalio of Bridgewater Associates. He's the most wealthy hedge fund in the world because he studied the last 500 years and studied these things where you go from you might say the blossoming to the collapse. This whole process. He sees, we have a blossoming and a collapse, and a blossoming,
or death and rebirth,
on and on like that, blossoming and collapse. And so he's been able to hedge on these, just like it was April 8th, he said we'd moved into what they call stage 6, which is a really the stage of collapse, so to speak. Of course, then we see all these things happen in Iran and so forth and so on, all the crazy things happen. So he's been very accurate. There's another incredible scholar, his name is Yuval Harari. He's written over 50 million books. 50 million books have been sold. And he truly believes that we as human beings are naturally aggressive and will never change. And will always be taken advantage of if we don't take advantage of others.
That's a terrible outlook.
Yeah, that's what his, he happens to be a scholar, a doctor at Hebrew University in Jerusalem, and also at one of those major universities there in England. And a lot of people are, look at history and say, well, that's just how it is. We're just like that. But you see, when we see process, it's a whole different understanding. Because we know, I got a chance to hear the last talk that Elizabeth Kubler-Ross made about death and dying. And she was a great, I don't know if you were her work, but Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, she's probably the most dedicated person we know of in history that's really recorded things about life after death.
Okay.
And what happened when she was 17, she just with the end of World War II, she was from Switzerland. She was attracted to go to Dachau, no, not Dachau, she was to go to a concentration camp. And she was there, and I'll never forget what she shared. She said she was there, and there was a survivor of the Holocaust, one of the concentration camps came by, and she said, "Oh, isn't this awful what Hitler's done?" And he said to her, "You know, there's a Hitler in every one of us."
Oh, wow.
So anyway, and by the way, that doesn't mean all of us should act like Hitler. I'm just saying
No, I
we
know.
have a part of ourselves, but we also have a higher nature ourselves. So she talks about how, and by the way, what happens individually also happens collectively, because we're one human family. So we have infancy. Of course, the main thing in infancy is that giving that child the warmth and physical comfort they need to be in the world. That's so important. In our indigenous cultures, now this is again my father sharing and grandmother sharing, once it was known that a woman with a child, she was just treated with the utmost care and love. She was encouraged to smell only beautiful smells, to listen to only beautiful sounds. Nobody spoke anything ill around that mother. Instead, they just cared for her. And actually, many of these our ancestors would actually go out by themselves and have their child because they felt it was so sacred. It's something between them and the Creator. So, even children were referred to as sacred beings. Sacred beings. Okay, so infancy. So we need that physical care. And that's why if we don't give children that physical care, that's what I was speaking about. I know what it's like. We need to be physically cherished and held. We're not going to spoil our children by holding them. That doesn't mean we don't have clear guidelines. But then from there, we go from infancy to childhood. In childhood is where we really, really begin learning about emotions, our feelings, and then we go to adolescence. And that's a defining point. We can see all the things that go on in adolescence, where I truly believe our human family is right now. And then we advance into adulthood. You see, so there's along with cycles, and that's what Harari and that's what Ray Dalio talk about, is cycles. Everything is in cycles. We say there's stages. There's cycles, but there's cycles within stages. So where are we? How does that reflect to where we are right now as a human family on
You
Mother
just
Earth?
read my mind again. I was just about to ask you. So what stage are we in now?
Okay, so here we are. Think about it. So on one hand, in a spiritual sense, in a consciousness sense, we're emerging from adolescence to our spiritual adulthood.
Okay.
That's what's happening. But that, it's just like being in the birth canal. I can't say that I know what it's like to have a child in my birth canal, because I don't have a birth canal. But I've been with my children when they've been born, and I know what my beloved wife has gone through. Whoa, what a process! And yet, it's part of the process of being born into this particular state of consciousness, this world we live in. And so if we think about it on that level, okay, but let's look at it planetarily, on a planetary basis.
Okay.
So we go back and we can see the first unity is family unity. Family unity. We were first families. And then families merged into tribes. And I'm sure there was conflicts going from families to tribes.
Right.
Over leadership, over, all those things that we've been through history.
Sure.
Families to tribes, right?
Yep.
Right.
Then what happens next? We can see city-states emerge. City-states. And there were city-states here in the Americas. The Aztecs, the Toltecs, the Inca. We had also city-states here. City-states everywhere. Then what happens? We have, then all of a sudden we come into nations.
Yep.
Nations. And I think we have to, that's why I think we have to look at human history without bias. We got to look at it with an open heart and mind. Because you see, I mean, because really, if we think about it, I do not believe our Creator would leave any of us alone without spiritual guidance. I mean, I don't believe indigenous people here in the Americas were meant to sit around for 2,000 years to wait for the truth and the light to come to us.
Right.
I mean, that's not, I mean, any loving creator or parent would never do that. And so we've had our spiritual teachers as well. And all these spiritual teachers, plus other spiritual teachers, other places on Mother Earth, they've talked about this day we live in. They've talked about this becoming. Now, many people are interpreting it in many different ways. And by the way, anything spiritual has infinite meaning. If you think about it, that's why when people start fighting over spiritual teachings, I have to say, just a minute. If it's spiritual, it's eternal. If eternal, it has infinite meaning. Because many things I understood when I was younger, and now I look at them now, my understanding is completely different, expanded, because I have more experience.
Right.
So truth is relative. Truth is relative. So I can, and we've seen that example of where, the blind relatives touch the elephant, and some of them say he's like a wall, and some of them say he's like a snake, and, so forth and so on.
Yeah.
So where are we now? Well, we know right now that nations by themselves cannot solve the planetary issues we have. Just like city-states couldn't, solve the issues that nations have solved in the past. But right now, nations can't do it. We can see this whole thing of what it's like, my nation's better than your nation, so forth. We have to move beyond that to planetary consciousness.
Ooh, now
and so what I see unfolding is a new planetary civilization literally is emerging upon Mother Earth. But that's going to take the change in heart. It's like if AI, depending on who's the ones behind it, programming it, will be how AI is handled.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's shaped in values, and shaped in kindness and compassion, and how can we uplift our human family, that's one thing. But if it's shaped towards how do we destroy our human family, well, it can do that too. And I think it's a much more complex a tool than a hammer.
Right.
Because that is not only the hammer, but at a point where the hammer operates by itself.
Right.
Yeah, we're constantly evolving, and it's like a spiral upwards.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here, by the way, here's one that I've really been looking at and trying to understand.
Okay.
And that's this incredible time we're living in. If you were to track the speed that human beings were traveling for the last 10,000 years, you'd find it was no more than the speed of a horse. Okay?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, on May 24th, 1844, William Morris from the chambers of the Supreme Court of the United States sends a message to Baltimore, exactly 44 miles away.
Okay.
And with a message that says, "What has God wrought?" Now, I've traced this and looked at it 10 different ways. All of a sudden, from that point in history, we see a parabolic curve going straight up.
Okay.
It has been pretty quick recent years.
Straight up. We find by 1863, we'd already charted the atomic chart. I mean, when you begin seeing the acceleration that we've gone through as a human family, just
yeah.
I mean, it's but the one place we haven't accelerated like that is our spiritual consciousness and understanding of oneness, because we are all indigenous people of Mother Earth. Where else did we come from?
Right.
I mean, now, yes, we did come from the stars. We have that. We know that already. We know that all the iron in our blood came from a supernova, and the calcium and all these other things came from the stars. Yet at the same time, here we are. We are children of Mother Earth. Mother Earth's our home. Now, sometimes we can get caught in our mind and lose contact with that relationship. But in order for us to be able to survive on Mother Earth, we've got to come back into relationship with our mother.
Absolutely.
I agree.
We have to come in relationship with our mother, and also with the female. Here's another one I think is really, some cultures call feminine what other cultures call masculine.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Some cultures call masculine what other people call feminine.
I did not know that.
Oh, yes. In some African cultures, what we call feminine behavior by men is seen as that's masculine behavior.
It's the same thing. It's just labeled differently by different people because of different
Exactly.
perspectives.
But I would say that we have infinite spiritual qualities. And we can see that up to this point, these attributes that quote unquote masculine attributes that have brought us to this, by the way, to where we're at today with all this suffering, it has to be balanced. So but this is a new state of consciousness we're coming to. Now we're understanding that the eagle has two wings, and I'm talking about, we are the eagle, by the way.
Okay.
One wing of the eagle is quote unquote masculine, and the other is feminine. But we have to have both wings of that eagle have equal power and respect and honor and integration right here. So while it's important to have quote unquote whatever people call masculine qualities, equally it's important to have what quote unquote people call feminine qualities. They're all, because from our understanding, our soul has no ethnicity, has no gender, has no race, has no ethnicity, and has no class. Our soul is a reflection of the oneness of our Creator. Our soul is a reflection of the oneness of the Creator. Now, in this world of duality, where we're learning, I mean, really, if you think about it, every moment we have a choice. We can go up the hill or down the hill, or just stay where we are. But since we're moving forward, we're never staying quite where we are. I guarantee you that. Right. At 81 winters, I tell you what, we're moving forward whether you want to know it or not. Very quickly. I remember my father used to tell me, son, when I was in my teens, he said, son, we're only here for a short time. I thought, what do you mean for a short time? My gosh, it seems like it's forever for a day to pass. or something you want to see, have something happen or whatever. Right. He said, son, you just wear out. Well, I can tell you. That's true. And, when you get, other elders will tell you the same. I mean, when they get their 80s or 70s, 80s, 90s, they'll tell you, how in the world did I get here? I look in the mirror and say, how in the world did this happen? This seems like yesterday. And it keeps going more quickly.
Faster, right. Yeah.
I don't know, by the way, when I was growing up, it seemed like everything was kind of going slow.
Yeah, same.
How about now?
But how about for the younger generations? It seemed like things are moving quickly?
Yeah, I would say so.
I think so.
Yeah, I mean,
and that could be very well all these things that are going on around us, all these new technological developments, all these things and so forth that are just changing so quickly, so rapidly. But you remember when I was growing up, I remember we had a crystal radio, and so I kind of get up there and we'd listen with my little earbud to the Christmas story. Every year they play the Christmas story or these different, the Lone Ranger, that was another one I remember.
Oh, wow.
Bar B Ranch was another one. These were all radio programs. That's what we're into. And I remember the first time I saw television. I think I was about 10 years old. We got a television. I was so excited. I remember I opened it up. My parents got home, and here it was all opened up the box out like this. But, things were much slower.
Sure.
Yeah.
But the fact is, we're advancing very, very rapidly. Now, but you see, that is, why our elders say development comes from within. Comes within each of us. It comes within a family, within a extended family, within a community, within a tribe, within a nation, whatever. It comes from within. Others can help and assist, but they must emerge from within. It's one of our 16 principles that came from the elders when we first began the meeting in 1982.
Okay.
Would that be like going through challenges and struggles and what some people say dark nights of the soul and things like? Are you referring to that, or are you just saying I think
all that. I mean,
it's all its purpose, kind of.
Right. Because it's if you think about it, it's through these challenges, it's through these tests and difficulties that we grow.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we grow.
Yeah.
I mean, without the challenges, how are we to grow? There's one spiritual teaching I love. It says, "Do you think you say you believe and will not be tested? Do you really think you say you believe and will not be tested? Do you really think you say you believe we're one human family and will not be tested?"
Yeah.
I feel like every day is a test sometimes.
Every day, because especially when we realize and understand that we're being called to be more than we've been before.
Right.
Yeah.
especially when we understand that the all these members of our human family that right now, as we sit here and visit, who are starving, who are dying from lack of water or clean water, who have no housing, no shelter, millions upon millions upon millions, and even more than ever before. So this is coming to a place where, I really truly believe humanity is awakening.
I do too.
So glad for that. I feel like we need to. Seriously.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Well, it's never been like this. I can tell you, in my lifetime, this is. I mean, where we're going is just beyond anything I could ever imagine.
Yeah, near-death reading and listening to people's near-death experiences, which there's thousands upon thousands of people and their testimonies out there on this, was part of my spiritual awakening, or one of them anyway. One of my spiritual awakenings. And I kind of agree with you on multiple spiritual awakenings throughout life, because it's part of evolving and growing and all that. But I guess where I was going was Indigenous. People seem to really understand that we are spiritual beings, and so I feel like in ancient times and just historically, there probably have been more people bringing back this knowledge of being on the other side and coming back to tell about its great love and all the wonderful things about it, and having more of an understanding of the bigger picture of why we're here and everything going on. So I do feel like Indigenous people have that understanding, and they have, told their people, and it's like a known thing. But Christianity has kind of come in, and I would say for the most part, that's not something that to talk about. I don't know, they frown upon speaking upon these things, I feel, a lot in different religions and things. But I guess where I was going with that is that I feel like we're at a point where people are either themselves having spiritual experiences, or otherworldly experiences, and near-death experiences, and that we are sharing it because of technology. It is putting it out there for everybody to see, but I feel like it's been a hidden thing, I guess, in the Christianity and more like controlled societies. I'm just gonna stop there because I don't even know where I was going with that.
I would rather call it churchianity.
Yeah, right.
Churchianity, because I really, if you go back
makes
and
sense.
look at the spiritual teachings in the New Testament
Mhm.
about being kind and loving and
Right.
forgiving and so forth and so on, and let those without sin throw the first stone, and so forth and so on. What's been done in the name of Christianity has nothing to do with Christianity.
Right.
From my perspective, it's no different. It's no different if again we live in cultures that have put down other cultures, or we live within where the I say territory of one religion that's putting down another religion.
Right.
But I think if we look independently into these various spiritual teachings, whether it be the peacemaker who came to the Iroquois Confederacy, or the white buffalo cattleman who came to our Chetishikoan, or to the Quetzalcoatl who came to the Toltecs. The teachings, the spiritual teachings, are one: to be kind, to be loving, to be forgiving, to be respectful. Now it's interesting. From the best I can understand from my dear Tahanshi, Kevin Locke, who's since passed on, who's really deep into the Ocheticoan history. The white buffalo cattleman appeared to our relatives about around 1,900 to 1,000 AD. The interesting thing is that her teachings are in her songs.
Okay.
And so, in a way, as long as those songs continue, the spiritual teachings are within those songs. And so, it's not like you can destroy a book. You're in the songs.
Yeah.
And I think of this one song. I'll just share one verse of it as best I can. I'm not a great singer.
Okay.
But it goes like this. Kolale chele chu, kolale chele chu, kolale chele chu, kolale chele chu, le chanunke, dako yachinku che tuk deo. Ho chokan wanji, you will talk kiki, mixuil pakeo, le chanunke, dako yachinku che tuk deo. What that says, in essence, is friend. Is when you're. By the way, it's one of our pipe loading songs. So it's when you're really preparing your soul spirit. It says, "Friend, do it this way.
Okay.
Do what you've done. Whatever you do in life, you do with all your soul. and you might say inherently in that spiritual message, if you get knocked down, get up. If you get knocked down 1,000 times, get up 1,000 times. Then it says, Tunkashlo, Wakantaka. He says grandfather, but it means that our creator, our ancestors are going to see you if you do it that way.
Okay.
Then comes the covenant we have between us and the creator. It says, when one sits in the sacred hoop of the people, one must be responsible. That's our part. And then comes the creator's part. And if you do it that way, whatever you ask for, that's exactly what it's going to be. And you got to proceed as such.
Okay.
So there's songs that you'll hear in indigenous songs from all over Mother Earth. Some will have vocables and sounds, and some have words, almost like poetry within the song.
Gotcha.
And that's where the spiritual teachings are.
Wow.
Okay.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yes, and so it was really, if you think about it, the only way left for our indigenous people to come together and worship together was through the churches. I mean, because remember, it was against the law, literally, to practice any kind of indigenous spirituality until finally, I think it was in the 1980s, the U.S. Congress passed, can you get this, passed the Freedom of Indian Religion Act.
Yeah, they literally made your culture illegal.
I didn't know that.
It was illegal. It was illegal to go.
They couldn't speak their language. They couldn't wear what they wanted to wear, dress the way they wanted to dress, talk the way they wanted to talk, teach they wanted. They couldn't do. It was literally like a whitewash law.
That's so wrong.
It's crude to put it that way, but it's true.
That's so wrong.
Yeah. Terrible.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. I mean, I worked a lot in resolving this residential school issue, beginning back in the early '80s. And having been born in a boarding school and having my parents go through it and knowing so many that suffered in those schools. And, some of these people were extremely sick people who were in these schools, extremely sick, what they did to children. Also, there was ones, though, that stood up and tried to stop it. So it's just like you hear about the big massacre that took place of the Cheyennes outside of Denver by Colonel Shivington, a Black Kettle group. Well, you hear about how what they did was just, I won't get into it. It's just sickening.
Right.
But there was also someone who stood up against it. And of course, that person was terribly treated for standing up against what happened and wouldn't participate in such a thing. So we got to realize that prejudice is taken because somebody hurt us. It was a certain color or a certain background or whatever. And then we begin looking at everybody like that.
Yeah.
But not everybody's like that.
Right.
There's incredible good human beings that have emerged all over their human family. And that's why coming to this understanding of who we are, first of all, to understand that each of us is a sovereignty, meaning that there's nobody else can condition our soul except ourselves.
Right.
Nobody.
Right.
I mean, if there's a saying that we come before the elders when we leave this world, they might say, Phil, why did you do that? Or why did you do, why did you make these actions? Well, I said, because I was on a program with Leslie, and Leslie didn't treat me right? Or my wife was really a terrible person, or whatever. I say no. No one can condition their own soul except themselves. Nobody else. Nobody else can do that. Now we can help and assist, but in the end, it's each of us that have to make the decision. And sometimes it's really hard. It's difficult.
Yeah.
It's difficult. It's not easy. It's not an easy path. My dad said, Sonny said, the red road's a good road, but it's a tough road. The red road, by the way, as you know, is because of the blood.
Oh, okay.
The red road, the road of life.
I was wondering that,
road.
to be honest. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, no, the red road. In fact, if there's maybe some other things that I can, please feel free to ask any questions you'd like. Let's just, because I sometimes maybe these concepts we feel, because we talk about them all the time, we haven't taken the time to share them or have been asked the question, what do they mean? So
Okay.
let's just at this point, let's open this up to whatever questions we've had. This has been kind of a visit. It has been there's no rhyme or reason. That's just letting it hang out, right?
Yeah, no, we're here
No,
for it.
I'm loving all the wisdom you're sharing.
Yeah.
I was thinking
soaking
you
it
were
up.
you're really talking about the soul a lot, which I love because like my intro, we are all eternal spiritual beings having a temporary human experience,
Yep.
and we're here to grow and learn and evolve spiritually through this duality, just as you were saying. And I guess you pretty much said the purpose behind this Earth experience and human experience to some extent. I mean, if you want to go a little further on that, but then you were speaking before we started recording about 6 or 7 different statements, I think, and that would that fall into kind of what we're talking about, something to share with the audience?
I think this is really key in terms of what we're talking about now. Now, I can just give you my perspective and my understanding of it. I'm not saying it's 100% whatever. People have to find this for themselves.
Sure.
But this is how, in a way, I look at it. When we were conceived, at that moment of conception, I truly believe that's where you might say what we call nari, or soul, is integrated with its physical being.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is that whether you lose a child in the womb or not lose a child in the womb, that child continues. We're born into this physical world of time and space with a soul, a sovereignty, ancient and perishable, everlasting. Okay? So our purpose within our womb suit, within the womb world, is to grow our physical arms and legs and eyes and ears.
Okay.
That's our purpose. Now, we go through all kinds of shapes and sizes. We start off microscopic, literally.
Right.
I mean, and if you see the beginning, it's hardly anything.
Right.
Just this beginning, this tiny, tiny, tiny infant. And we go through all these different shapes and forms. A doctor told me one time that unless you're a trained physician at one state, you can't tell the difference between a human fetus and a pig fetus.
They're very similar.
Yeah, very similar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, we look
Dolphins
very similar.
too.
Huh?
Dolphins too.
Dolphins.
Mhm.
Very similar.
Yeah.
But we always have been and always are human beings. I think that's so important. We have not arisen from the apes. They're close, they're relatives, but there's certain things that we have that transcend that.
Right.
That's the spiritual dimension we have. That doesn't mean, by the way, that these animal relatives don't have a spiritual dimension to them, or that part of our teachings has to be to learn to be kind to animals.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't mean, by the way, I've had elders tell me prophecies that in the future we're going to move to a place where we're going to completely live off just the plant world.
Yeah.
That we're going to leave behind the consumption of animals.
Yeah.
I love that personally.
Love that too.
I mean, it's just, and as you get, for instance, when I was growing up, like my dad used to say, when we moved over towards the Pacific coast, he said, well, these relatives are salmon people. He said, I know salmon people are like, we were buffalo people. We're buffalo people. We're, that's who we are.
Yeah, right.
And so we lived out in the country and we used to raise beef and so forth. I used to be in 4-H and all that kind of thing.
Okay.
And yet, as my father older he got, the more he changed his diet. It's like myself. I just, great love and respect for all those people that like steaks. I just can't take it.
Yeah.
We're both vegan.
Yeah, I haven't eaten any meat since 2004, I think.
Yeah.
If it has a face, I just can't do it. It's another sentient being with a soul, thoughts, feelings, emotions, desires, wishes, sadnesses. It's like I can't.
You're literally the change. You're creating that change. Where you can see.
Yeah, and it's going to be a process because we also have to understand that for instance, up in the Arctic, their whole being has been around because that's all they don't have fruit trees up there.
Yeah.
Right.
Up in the Arctic Circle. But it's in time, humanity is leaving slowly but surely because I remember getting these different medical tests and how my body was and so forth. And they said, well, you're from a meat-eating culture, so you've got to, So what I'm saying is the best way to do it is by living by example.
Right.
But I do believe that as we evolve and grow, this idea of having this great big steak in front of you, that's it's gonna dissolve away.
Yeah, I don't even like going near the meat section in the supermarket because I'm like,
If-
no, I can't look at the dead friends. I can't look at the dead friends. I don't want
If
to.
we have to walk past it, she like walks
I literally
pretty
like,
fast. And...
I'm like, it bothers me. It just bothers me. Like, cause I can't look at that without seeing the animal behind it. You know what I'm saying? And like, yeah, I'm very passionate about the subject. I'll try to keep myself contained.
That's right. That's what we touched on. What I'm saying is there's going to be many changes we're going through, even how we eat. Our understanding is just transforming. So anyway, here we are growing our arms and legs and eyes and ears inside our mother's womb. And, now if we're veiled from this womb by the womb wall. So we have no idea of the world we're in, how immense it is, especially now with these big telescopes. It's getting more and more immense.
Right.
But here we are, but the mother's womb, we're in there, we start doing our isometrics, kicking in, so we're getting ready to make the journey out here to this world. And we die from the womb world. And we die from our womb suit. Because our purpose here is to grow our earth suit.
Right.
Gotcha.
Okay? So we come out into this world, remembering now, if a child's lost at childbirth, that child's soul has already been, we already are. But when we enter this world, that's what's given us this power from entering this world of time and space. This is something that we have from outside this world, which we see as infinite, because because a translation of potentiality into actuality creates more potentiality. So it's infinite. We have infinite potentiality. We're infinite beings. We're just getting started on this journey. Just getting started.
And more people are seeing that, which is taken like the division and the separation and all that. Like more and more people are seeing that we are united and one and come from the same, you know what I mean? And I just hope that, the change happens sooner than later for everybody to, kind of wake up to that and treat each other.
And also something that just recently happened. Sorry if I'm talking over you, Leslie.
No.
I don't need to do that. But the Artemis 2 mission just concluded. The astronauts just got back last night. And, one of the things that they were saying, which is similar to what Edgar Mitchell said when he was looking at Earth from out in the moon, that all of our political stuff is so petty when you're looking at the Earth from perspective of the space. Like we have this beautiful blue, green, luscious, life-providing planet, and we're just like blowing each other up and fighting and eating our homies, and we're just doing all this silly
Burning
stuff and
fuels.
polluting and drilling and fracking and
yes. And you see, at the same time, what we've done is we've lost the purpose of this life. And that is to grow our spiritual arms and legs and eyes and ears.
Right.
So do you feel that's like what humanity is going through now?
Yes, exactly. Because, we are just beginning to go into this, by the way. We have many challenges before us to really wake up and say, just a minute, let's not see another child suffer. Because even so we sit here, we know how many people since we've been visiting children have died from hunger or starvation or diseases that could have easily been, sicknesses that could easily been dealt with had they had any kind of medical care or they had a house to live in. We know that's happening. Now, on the other hand, with this understanding, we know they're going on beyond this world. And we know whatever they were going through, there's a higher purpose there. It's not for us to judge that or say, oh, it's okay because the others are going to be fine. Because we can see that and we can feel it. And we know that every human being is a sacred being. And once we know that, then we know every human being has a right to clean water. Everybody, not just a few people, not just AI data centers.
Right.
Yeah, different sources of energy that are not so costly or hurtful to the planet. And, so there's a lot of control, I think, in all this. And hopefully, the light will overcome the darkness in that aspect and even things out a little bit, because we really shouldn't be living in this state we are.
Right. And I think, how rapidly these innovations are happening, it's just unbelievable that it may be the very cause of the issue might be to solve the issue, because there has to be ways to do this. This is just the early beginnings of this technology, the early beginnings.
Exactly.
But it really is about, is it about making money? Is it about you controlling it so you control other human beings and or use it as vehicles for war and killing people? Or is it to truly assist humanity to uplift into the greatest creativity, this great day that's being born right now as we're right here. And so that's what I'd say, that every day we have an opportunity to grow spiritually. Every day we can watch how we think. We start thinking negative. Just a minute, Phil. No, I got to take that thought of anger and replace it with love. Phil, who are you to judge these other relatives? Who are you? You say it's a prayer for them, for their upliftment. Now that doesn't mean we don't have boundaries.
Sure.
Right.
We have to have boundaries, because it's just like it's like a cobra is a cobra. By the way, I'm not saying that every human being will always be a cobra, but that's the difference. The cobra has a nature, and that's to be a cobra.
Right.
And I mean, you can do as much as you want with a cobra, but if you go try to pet them, they'll probably bite you.
Right.
That's just the way. I mean, a lion is a lion.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, now you may know the lion since they're really small and they'll be very nice to you, but in most cases, a lion is a lion. You jump into a lion's cage, you can probably get eaten up.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the way it is. But that's not our necessary nature. I mean,
Yeah, and I can't help but think about trauma is really what creates the negative nature within each human,
yes,
Yeah. Oh,
exactly.
and something I thank you for saying that, Leslie, because earlier, Chief Phil, when you were telling your story about how when you were born, the doctor gave your mother advice to cut off the breast milk and add formula, which now we know not such a great idea.
Right.
And the whole idea of just letting a baby cry so that it could eventually just console itself. Now we know that's not such a great idea. And I was just listening to a telepathy tapes episode the other day, and they mentioned that on there also, where there was a doctor who told a mom, just let your baby cry. And she said that this baby cried for like hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. And, while the mom thought she was doing the right thing because that's what the doctor told her to do, essentially she was harming her child.
and not listening to her own instincts. At the
Right,
same
thinking
time.
she was doing the opposite, exactly, ignoring her own instincts. So it's just crazy to see the projection of how, doctors even used to prescribe cocaine and cigarettes just for anti-anxiety relief. So, we've come a long way with what we've been taught to believe.
I can go down the whole, like the way they deliver babies here in America, is like in hospitals, the way that is like totally all wrong and probably traumatic.
There's many things that I think we do backwards.
Yeah, I mean, just take a look at cerebral palsy. I mean, that's mostly caused by doctors using forceps to pull a baby out of out of the mom.
When it naturally can come through if they just have the patience and let the mother move around in a natural way to give birth and all that. Yeah.
And when a baby is crying like that, it's so powerful for the mother to console it, to have skin-to-skin contact, to build that emotional bond, to have that other person there to comfort and coddle and console you.
Exactly.
And without that, I mean, that's like a literal lack that you're seeking without even like having enough language in your head to know that that's what's happening. You're, so that's a powerful moment to be denied. As a new
yes. And I was also thinking about how he was speaking about how the indigenous culture, treated the woman very well while she was, with child. And the child is also receiving those positive, good, loving energies, and it's helping them come into this world. If somebody's experiencing the opposite, I do believe it affects the child.
Sure.
Again, I can't speak for every tribal culture, but I can speak for my great-grandfather, my great-great-grandfather. And this has been passed on through my family, through my father, my Uncle Vine Deloria, my Uncle Ella, my aunt, my grandmother Ella Deloria. And anyway, but my great-great-grandfather was the Itasha, the chief of the White Swan Dakotas. And he was given a vision at a very young age. In this vision, it said he would kill 4 men in his life. 4 men. And 2 of the men he killed because as he was both the Itasha, you might say, the political leader, but also the spiritual leader, kind of combined in one.
Okay.
And he realized that abusing women was just not part of our culture at all. And he realized that would be the most damaging thing is the abuse of women and the hurting of women. And so he told his son-in-law had beaten up my great grandmother but in our own Dakota way, even though she'd be like a great aunt, people call him, but my great grandmother. And so he came back in and he saw her. He'd warned his son-in-law 3 times not to abuse his daughter. He walked into his lodge the 4th time. This is all accounted for, what happened. And he saw her beaten up. He didn't say a word. He went over and got his shotgun and rode over to his son-in-law's lodge, walked in and said, "Son-in-law, I warned you 3 times not to strike my daughter, and now I'm going to kill you." Bam, boom.
Wow.
Blew him away. Also happened to his son-in-law too. There's 2 other stories I won't get into now for that same purpose, because he realized, brother-in-law, I'm sorry. So his son-in-law and a brother-in-law. Now afterwards, because of the way we did things, because there had to be the opportunity for response from his relatives, he went outside the camp unarmed all night, and anybody had the right to come kill him. Of course, nobody came, because they realized this was not something to be done. And if we think about it, we spent over $1 trillion so far on the war on drugs. $1 trillion.
Yeah.
At least hundreds of billions of dollars. If you think about all the things they've done all over the world against trying to stop drugs, and they're worse than ever. No consumption, no cartels.
Supply and demand.
So what if we would have taken and poured those billions into young mothers and young families, mothers and fathers? What if our whole standard was to raise the most healthy children in the world?
Right. Because people
What
go
if
to
that
that stuff to try to heal, or not heal, but cover the pain, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and that's what I can look at myself. When I went through that whole process, it's your pain.
Yeah.
It's the pain. That's what keeps people doing it. They can be sick or whatever, and yet they will how do I say it? They'll come back and do it the next day and the next day and the next day.
Yeah.
Because of the pain. But if children are raised right from the beginning with all kinds of love, and that's that first thing, is that physical affection.
Yep.
Physical affection, the touching. We need, because here we've been inside the womb all this time, all constrained. That's why they had they'd wrap the baby in
Swaddle.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Because it gave them that feeling of being in the womb. Here all of a sudden
Safety.
we end up in the womb, and here we need that comfort.
Right.
And that gave them comfort. And they found that that children are put, I guess, I'm trying to think of the proper term, papoose. That's what I tried to name. But I'm talking about when you carry children on your back.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the proper word. I think it's
That
papoose.
sounds like it might.
Papoose. But I think that's more of a Northwest Coast name word, papoose.
Right.
And I don't anyway. But the thing is that we realize that, and right now we think about the young children in this world. They're the most precious, sacred things we have.
I mean, scientifically, I think up to age 7, they're in a certain brain state, maybe theta. I might be saying the wrong one, but they're literally learning by their environment. And so if there's, a lot of traumatized people, in their pain, and they're not necessarily going within or healing or doing all the things, then they are learning that and also being hurt by that. And so, yeah, it's a big repetitive cycle with
generational trauma, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's something that's really fascinated me for a long time, which I've really been reflecting on and doing research on, and that's this. We know that our basic personality is formed to about age 7, 5, 6, 7.
Yeah.
The basic personality of who we are. I mean, that's without question. Scientifically, we understand that. We also understand how important it was these first years, where we can see Indigenous societies, how much care was given to children and how sacred they're considered. Now, if that's the case, unless there's elders actively involved whose consciousness have changed since that early beginning. Usually people have children when they're sometimes 18, 20, 25, right in there, right?
Yep.
How much do you think we've really changed from where we were when our basic personality, our basic values from the time we were 6 or 7? By the time we're 20, how much do you think that's basically changed?
Not much.
Not a whole lot.
Okay. So then we raise our children. Okay. And they take take on our state of consciousness, and they raise their children.
Yeah.
So really, our great grandparents aren't that far away from us,
Good point.
if you think about it.
Yeah.
So so wow. Just think about this. Where we were. No. I'm just curious. How old were you how old were your parents when you were born?
My mom was 29 when she had me and turned 30 the next day.
I want to say mom was 22.
Yeah. Mine
22?
was 24.
Okay. So from the time they were 6 or 7 in their basic person, how much do you think that had changed by the time they had you all?
Not,
I mean, some, but
physically
not
they got taller, but like not a whole lot. Because I know up until age 7, the kids are basically just sponges absorbing their environment, everything around them.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then as a young adult, you're really reacting as that young child within. So pretty much everything going around you, from my understanding as well. So like something will happen and it triggers something from childhood that you might even not even consciously realize is happening, but subconsciously there's like still stuff there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so really, we're much closer to our ancestors than we really realize. Much closer. And I also know that each of us, in terms of this physical world of time and space that we're in right now, our bots. I don't know what we call ourselves.
Bots.
We're certainly. I mean, this is my AI
avatar.
Right.
My life bot, so to speak. My life bot moving around here.
We've been programmed and all that.
Yeah, what's moving it around? But the thing is that each of us, in a way, is a spiritual representative of all that have gone before us. Which, if we understand the prior unity and oneness of our human family. The prior unity and oneness of our human family. That is, we've always been one. It just didn't happen. We're from the same seed, from the very beginning that has really no beginning. And that's pretty heavy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So who represents them in this physical world of time and space? We do.
Yeah.
Now, if we went back in our histories, we might find that from whatever cultures we came from, because obviously you can see with my light hair and lighter complexion, there's not all Dakotas and Chickasaws inside me. Although that's the part I grew up with, because the other dimension was gone in my life when my parents were very young.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean as well. All if we really think about it, every human being comes from that sacred place. And yes, along the way, we've made mistakes. We've gone over here, but all this process, we've been learning. And what's going on right now with this whole capacity we have to tune in globally and to talk with people, to think about the real, there's another prophecy that talks about there'll come a time when we'll all be able to speak the same language along with our mother tongues. We need to retain our mother tongue. It's very precious. But and now we're at that place. Literally, you can have 100 people with 100 different languages come into a AI-supported context and speak in your own language, and each other can understand each other.
That actually just happened recently on X. They just implemented an automatic translate button, and our friend Christy has been going crazy about it because all of a sudden now she's understanding and hearing from people from Korea, from Japan, from all these countries that she hasn't heard from before. And it's just giving everybody the opportunity to speak at the same time and understand each other without language barriers, because X is automatically translating everybody's text. So people are getting to hear from people from other cultures, whereas before there was a barrier. Now it's just like an open conversation. Exactly.
So that prophecy, I was wondering, how's that going to happen?
AI.
Well, a lot of spiritual people are also talking about telepathy coming online.
Oh, that too.
Yeah.
Which I personally, I think I might have experienced.
We have these capacities. I'll tell you a story my father told me many times.
Okay.
When he was a young boy at 12, this is after his mom had passed away and his father had disappeared somewhere. And when he was just about 4 or 5, and he'd been raised by my great grandfather. And he talked about how Joshua Lodog, who had fought against General Custer, came for what he called an Indian visit. That is, you come in October, you leave in April. And he'd say, son, how can you share your life in just an evening, so to speak? So here are these two. So Joshua Lodog, he was not very tall. He was about 90 some, but he said that he was not very tall, maybe about 5'6", 5'5".
Okay.
But when he walked, his moccasins would make a bang on the. You hear him coming. It sounded like somebody about 7 feet tall. My dad said. He said his grandmother used to, fix him kind of a cot.
Okay.
He said, he said, no. He said, sister, he says, I got to sleep on my Mother Earth because if I'm on her breast, she'll take care of me. She'll heal me. I mean, he wouldn't sleep on that cot. He wouldn't sleep on a bed. He'd sleep on the earth, on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, all winter long, he said these two elders were together. And of course, it's come time for the storytelling to come on. And so he said at that point, my dad made, he said the best Chickasaw, the best tobacco on the reservation is they could take this hard tobacco and they mix it with kinnikinick and so forth. They make it just a right tobacco. By the way, they didn't sit around smoking 24/7 either. I mean,
Okay.
This is a very sacred thing. So anyway, so he'd say so on his left hand side sat Joshua, and my great grandfather T.P. Stapa, Black Lodge sat here, Philip DeLoria sat here, and they'd be visiting. Then he'd say, "Chinupa, pipe." So my father would get the pipe and he'd hand it to my great grandfather, and he'd light it. But then he'd hand it to Joshua. He was the guest, so Joshua would smoke. And he would smoke some, just take some puffs. Then he'd give it to my dad. He was 12. He'd take a few puffs and put it away. And they'd start talking. And he talked about the Custer battle and how it was the children were playing in the Little Bighorn River.
Okay.
And all of a sudden, the first bullets. That's how they were describing this whole battle that went on. And then all of a sudden, he said, they'd be talking right in the middle, and then just stop. He'd kind of about halfway fall asleep, and all of a sudden, it's like they turn the volume off, and then all of a sudden, and then, da-da-da-da-da. So they'd been talking all the time while they weren't talking.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, and so they do that to let him know about these qualities. And I remember when I was 12, my father promised me all year, if I was a good boy, I'd get my name. I'd be given my name by my grandfather, Chantewashte, Strongheart, who'd fought in World War I. And so he promised when we made our annual journey back to Standing Rock and back to Yankton, he'd give me my name.
Okay.
So of course I wanted to be a good boy and wanted to get my name, So I remember we went to on the Standing Rock right close to Wakpala. That's where Chief Gall's people are. We call them the people of Chief Gall, Wakpala, South Dakota. And I was there at Wakpala. That right outside of Wakpala is my cousin Greg Sherwood and his family, and my grandmother, who was very close to my grandmother. We used to go stay in there in the summertime. In fact, one summer I went to spend the entire summer there just to be there at home. And so it came time to go up and ride up. Of course, we had to go on horseback to ride up and get my name. So I remember my uncle Ulysses Strongheart. That's the son of Walter Strongheart. Chantewashte. That was where so it was up there. So we rode on horseback. I'll never forget this. The three of us rode on horseback on this dirt road. And on the way, my uncle Ulysses, a rattlesnake came right in front of us. He killed that rattlesnake, gave me the rattler. He said, this is kind of your medicine, so to speak. And we rode up there, and I'll never forget, here we were, and we drove off the dirt road in this little path up this kind of this hill. There was kind of some small trees there and so forth. And there was ahead of us a log cabin. Of course, there had no plumbing or anything like that. And here, sitting there, was my grandfather, Chantewashte, just sitting there waiting for us. And I know, you see, there was no way my father could communicate with him that we were coming. There was no way. There was no way to send him, call him on the phone.
Yeah.
Right.
No way.
Right.
I never forget my dad. So he says, "How do you know we're coming? How does he know we're coming?" Of course, we went there, and of course, in part of our tradition, we bring food and different gifts and tobacco and so forth.
Okay.
He said, even your grandson a name and so forth. And so he sat there and sang some songs and so on. And then he gave me his father's name, which is Shinkumado, which in its short form means horse thief. But in the long run, it means, which really I prayed about him when I went to fast at Bear Butte, means the leader of warriors who takes the enemy's best horses, because then you have to learn. You see, it's not about stealing horses as much as this is kind of almost like a game that went on between tribes. Is how can you get into the village without harming anybody? Because you could come back to your camp with 1,000 horses, but if one person was dead, that was no success.
Yeah.
There's no human life that's equal to 500 horses.
Right.
That's somebody's son, grandson, brother, husband, sister, whatever. And it's very interesting how. Let me share this part. I think that you'll be interested.
Sure.
How did then Shunkmana, a horse thief, how did he go about getting the relatives who were going to ride with him? And how did that happen? How did they do that? Well, what would happen is if somebody would have a dream or whatever, they would be aware of a camp over here, let's say the Crows over here, and they knew they had good horses and so forth. And they decide a dream would happen, and he'd go to the elders and said, I have this dream. I want to go and they have some good horses over there. They got some of ours, we'll get some of theirs. But what he'd do is once that happened, he could consult the elders, say, yes, go ahead, it'll be good. He'd go to his wife. And let's say they were, visiting and said, I'm thinking about, I'm going to get some men with me to go they get these Crow horses.
Okay.
And Pawnee horses. And so the wife would go to the Women's Society and bring that to the Women's Society.
Mm-hmm.
They would discuss who would go. They knew their sons better than anybody. They said, "Oh, my son, he's in love right now," or my son's got good medicine right now. So she would come back and tell him, because he usually would go in sevens.
Okay.
Sevens. I mean, of course, we know seven, how many things come in sevens. But sevens and fours for us were very sacred numbers. 7, 4s, 9s. Anyway, in sevens. So she'd come back with the names of the 6 men. Of course, they would be informed by their mothers that, in fact, they were going on this horse stealing raid.
Okay.
And so then he'd come out and announce to everybody. Yeah, he announced to everybody that we're going to go on. I'm calling these men to come join me, and we're going to go hunting, right? Because everybody knew who was really behind it. Because if a mother didn't choose for their son to go, they wouldn't go. And who would know the son better?
Right.
I mean, who would know the son better than the mother?
Right.
It was from her the children come from, whether it's female or male child. So she should have a full consultation about who goes. Okay, so they go. They'd arrive there just in time when it was completely just almost dark, and then they'd watch it. They'd watch it as the moon got full, and they do it right at the time of the year where they know the weather would be kind of warm and wouldn't be stormy or this and that, and they'd watch. They'd watch. And they could see the older men like myself would have to go outside in the nighttime, maybe and have a leak or whatever. And they watched the camp, but they also watched how they treated their horses, because they knew that the buffalo horses, that's the one they wanted to be able to go right in that herd, because that buffalo horse had to have no fear. Because these buffalo, I mean, we see buffalo today weren't as big as they were in the past. They were big.
Oh, wow.
I mean, they got thundering. That's why one of the names my father has when they're in our circle, so to speak, that we give us names. What I loved, it was Brown Thunder. Brown Thunder meant when a herd of buffalo were running. Literally, wow. Brown Thunder. It boom. I mean, there were 60 million buffalo here when the relatives arrived from Europe. When we arrived from Europe, there were 60 million, reduced down to less than 1,000. Can you imagine?
I hate those pictures. I hate the whole idea of it. It really bothers me. The pictures are so disturbing. So disturbing.
Yes. So sad.
My God.
Well, you can imagine what it was like to have everything you believed in destroyed. Every ceremony that gave you strength, every the whole animal in which you gave the most sacred love to is a buffalo, like our own relative. To see this happen, but then to come back because of the prophecies that promised after this long spiritual wintertime, a new springtime would come. This wintertime would last about 500 years. I mean, even the prophecy of I shouldn't just say even the prophecy, other prophecy, but the prophecy of the reunion of the condor and eagle, that was given to the relatives down at Tiwanaku, down in the Quechuas and Aymaras, prior to the coming of the Europeans, that this would happen, that the condor and eagle would come together again. And I actually was there in 1971 when that happened.
Wow.
I was in Bolivia. and at Lake Titicaca and so forth. Now, since, again, at that time, just like other prophecies, the prophecy of the condor and eagle, the prophecies of the peacemaker, the white buffalo cattleman, these prophecies, a black elk, for instance, black elk's prophecies, which many people know now. These were kept very quietly in different corners. Now they're shared everywhere. I mean, people are sharing them. They have their different interpretations because they have infinite spiritual meaning. So why wouldn't you interpret them different ways? I mean, some people see the union of the condor and eagle. The people of the north have the intellect, and the people of the condor are the people of the heart. Well, that's one way to see it. I mean, there's many ways.
Sure.
And I mean, when I heard the prophecy, that wasn't what it was about. It was coming together. The indigenous people of the Americas were going to return together and to reunify. And in that process would be an example, and that others would join us. Others would join us. Now, to do that, one of the things we're working on right now is what we call the digital fourth way. And that is, how do we connect? How do you connect the indigenous people across the Americas and others who truly want to see a new planetary civilization?
Yes.
And we've done some really in-depth work on that. I mean, in-depth.
Can you explain what the fourth way is and why it's so important to humanity right now?
Right. Well, when they had the 9/11 issue happen, where they struck the World Peace, the World Trade Center and so forth. Right after that, we came out with the fourth way.
Okay.
And what we realized, we had to transcend assimilation. So that's one way we've dealt with oppression, is assimilate, to give up who we are. To think if we wear a suit and tie and do all these different things, we're going to fit in, or whatever. However that we're supposed to do that. So that doesn't work.
No.
Or giving up, resignation, giving up. You give up, fall into alcohol, fall into drugs. That's easy and not pain to do. And that's why the elders say, don't judge anybody, because no one knows what their own end is going to be. None of us. We have no idea what's going to happen to us. So don't be sure not to be judging other people, because you don't know what they've been through or where they're going. That doesn't mean, by the way, again, we don't have boundaries. I'm not saying that. And the third, of course, is to fight. Conflict. We're saying no. The fourth way is to transcend that. To transcend that. This is the way of rebuilding trust, to rebuilding relationship, and so forth. That's what that's about.
That's beautiful. I'm ready for the fourth way.
Me too.
Yes.
Same.
And these things, by the way, we've written quite in depth on all these things. I'd be very happy, by the way, to share, if anybody's interested, to share, because we've been writing a lot on this. And I have no reason, we're not trying to put it into books or whatever. I'd be happy to share it with anybody who's interested.
Yes, actually, this is the perfect time for me to ask you if you can share with our audience where they can find you online, drop your links, let them know what kind of cool stuff you have going on and what kind of cool stuff you have coming up. I do have a lot of links for a lot of these papers that you've written, such as Deep Social Networks and the Digital Fourth Way document, the Fourth Way and Indigenous Vision for Sustainable, Harmonious Planetary Prosperity. So feel free to talk about all that stuff. Let them know where they can find you, and I will have all of these links in the video description box, so that will be available.
That'll be great. So the best way to reach me is just by email, which is very simple. PhilLaneJr@gmail.com. PhilLaneJr@gmail.com.
Okay.
Send me an email. I'd be happy to then send back a response and share. Our website, if I'm not mistaken, is fwii.earth.
Okay, so we will have your website. Don't forget to mention that you're also on YouTube and you're also on Facebook.
Yes, I'll do that. I never even thought about that YouTube. I have a YouTube.
Allie mentioned it for you. I think it's probably a good time for Justin's famous question. What do you think?
Okay.
Yeah, let's go.
Okay. Chief, what is your greatest hope for the future of humanity?
My greatest hope for humanity is for us to wake up and realize we're one human family. All indigenous people are Mother Earth. And the hurt of one is the hurt of all. And the honor, upliftment, and healing of one is the honor, healing, and upliftment of all. To me, this is the core foundation. Because once we understand this oneness, and the prior unity. The prior unity is so important. And there was a wonderful spiritual teacher I met out in an island off Fiji. His name is Adi Da. And he was the one that, I'm not sure if he's the only one, but really how I shared with him this concept, the prior unity. So in a way, the prophecy of the reunion of the condor and eagle is also talking about our reunion of our human family. It's not like we haven't been one, because we know scientifically that our DNA is 99.9% the same.
Right.
These secondary things, my eye color, my hair, how tall I am, how short I am. Yes, but basically, if we weren't one, we couldn't intermarry.
Right.
And obviously, love is taking us to a point where when love gets involved, skin color doesn't count, or age or whatever. And so we can see that just us being together and being able to share with each other like this, it shows that we as human beings can do this. It's just being able to communicate with each other. And now, like you said, this whole thing, I didn't know they had that next where you can share with people in different languages.
The language, yeah.
The
I
translation.
didn't know that either. Sign language.
It just happened a couple days ago.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I've been thinking about this for a long time. How in the world is this prophecy about this global language evolving? And then, back when I first went to China, 20 years ago, went to Beijing, and I spoke at some of the schools there, elementary schools that were learning English. They were all learning English, by the way. And so I went there, and boy, I'll tell you, these students were really sharp. I'll tell you, wow. I thought to myself, and they all were learning English. Well, I thought, well, maybe it's going to be English. Of course, right now, there's not some people who really don't care much for the English language and what's behind what they see as coming from people who speak English.
Can't say I blame them at the moment. Just
right. And then we have the fact that we have 140 million people who speak Chinese, and we have others that speak Russian, and we know that German. In German, we know that of course it's interesting that German is a noun-based language, but see its capacity of these parts to the whole to get down and examine all this. But the thing is, when you examine a flower, you don't examine flowerness. You pull off the petals, the stamen, or let it all around. There's supposed to be a flower. It's not a flower. You've got to be able to see how it all fits together too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking about the eagle and what is the other bird? Condor.
Condor.
But both birds themselves, to me, is like awareness or perspective of the bigger picture. I don't know why I felt like I had to say that, but that's what we're all coming to, is a bigger awareness and being able to see more of the whole of how we all are connected.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people are like zooming out right now. Like a lot of people were so microly focused. They were so zoomed in. They were just worried about their little 3D lives, just them and themselves and their drama. But I feel like since things like 9/11, since things like COVID, since things like what's going on right now, people are zooming out and they're asking the important question, like, wait a minute, why am I here? What is this existence? What is going on? What is my role in this?
Right. Exactly. And we can see something that most people were not even aware of, the incredible impact that this whole situation is having with this conflict going on with the United States, Israel, and Iran.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, how this is impacting everyone.
Literally.
And literally millions of human beings are to go into extreme poverty as a result. Already you can see it. I mean,
That's
people
awful.
who are just living on the edge. My gosh, gas prices, diesel prices, jet fuel. Then it turns into food.
Yep. Fertilizer is a big thing. Yeah.
All these things. And so people are going to realize everything is interrelated. It's always been, but now we're becoming aware of it.
Right.
We're becoming aware of it. And let's just pray that we don't have to keep going down this rabbit hole. I mean, I've been far enough down it as it is, but I'm afraid that unless we're really willing to walk the fourth way, we're really truly able to, we're not going to. It'll continue happening until we're ready, until our consciousness changes. Now, that doesn't mean, by the way, that we can't change our consciousness now.
Right.
Okay.
That doesn't mean we have to be upset about everything that happens in the world.
Yeah.
Because once I understand it, it's a process, not an event. This process, where is it going? It's leading to a new planetary civilization.
Mm-hmm.
It's awakening humanity. There is no death, just a change of worlds, like Chief Saddle said. That's another important one to understand. There is no death. There's just a change of worlds. And we leave behind this earth suit.
Right.
Now, that doesn't mean that we don't get tested by the loss of relatives going through the side camp. And especially when parents lose their children before they go. That's a tough one.
You're right.
Yeah.
Or grandchildren. And you wonder why. But the question is, we have to ask ourselves these questions here. I mean, then it causes us to seek out teachings.
Yeah.
I mean, if life is just death, I mean, if life is just one disaster after another followed by death, then you go to hell and burn forever. That's what some people's attitude is. It's just,
Yeah.
but no, we're here. We're spiritual beings. What incredible
It's a miracle.
Huh?
Right. It's a miracle that we're here,
Yeah, it's a
floating
miracle.
Yeah.
on this rock and through space and like
Exactly. And to think about it, this technology, here we are. I'm sitting over in White Rock, British Columbia.
Yeah.
I'm able to put this. By the way, I love this background. It's just such a beautiful, calming background.
It is.
It is.
But here we are. It doesn't make any difference where we are on Mother Earth. You could be in Ethiopia right now or wherever you wanted to be, and here we have this visit. I mean, that doorway is open to all members of our human family. My young son, Tiger, he's 25, and really, I think he's a perfect example of what it's like when you have that. His mom has been so incredible with him, and I've done my best, but his mother has been so. He has no desire. The last thing he wants to is take a drink or have drugs. He doesn't choose. He doesn't want it.
Wow. Such a difference, right?
Yeah, but now, by the way, that doesn't. Every child has that. Every child has that potentiality. Not just every child, but it's where we pay attention. My uncle Vine Deloria Jr. said, in the future, any civilization is going to be judged how they treated those at the sunrise of their life and those at the sundown of their life. The children and others. How does society treat them? Because if we think about it, if in fact our first years determine our basic personality, but elders are deeply involved in that process, that means they've already gone to 70, 80 years old, 60, 70, 80. Hopefully we learn something by then. I mean, that's our whole thing was organized around ceremonies to deepen that spiritual sun dancing or sweat lodges or whatever. Or just living, how we lived and treated Mother Earth. Yeah. All these teachings were going on. So we were carrying on an ever-advancing civilization, meaning by that saying it, doesn't mean that I'm talking about you judge a civilization by how technological it is. To me, it's how spiritually evolved that society is, how they treat their children, how they treat one another, how they treat our animal relatives.
Yes.
I mean, even whenever we hunted, we never took more than we needed. Never. We always would pray. Not that. So I'm not trying to. I'm just saying that's what we need. That's where things were at right now. But right now, I used to. When I grew up, I learned to fish. I learned to hunt. I learned all those things. But I don't choose to do that anymore.
Right.
Because I don't need to.
Right.
Gotcha.
I don't need to take a rifle out and go kill a deer. Now, there's some relatives who survive on that. Right here in British Columbia, up in the north, they survive on that. They survive on fishing. So I respect that. But for me, I don't have to go out and kill things.
Right.
I mean, now, some of my relatives, they go out because that's all they have to eat. If they can go get a deer, then they have some food to eat.
Yeah, there's a huge difference between your relatives that go out and hunt a deer respectfully for that entire animal's sustenance, and they say a prayer beforehand and they use every little bit of it, and it's a completely respectful process, versus the opposition, which is factory farming, which is, kill rates per minute. It's just, it's a drastic difference. So there's a quote that I would like to say, if that's okay, by Gandhi, that says, "The greatness of a nation can be judged by the way its animals are treated." I love that one. And then beautiful. There's another one by Immanuel Kant that says, "We can judge the heart of a man by his treatment of animals." And I stand by that completely.
Oh, beautiful.
Love that. Yeah.
Yes. That's one of the teachings I would say that we it's so important to teach children, and that's kindness to animals.
Yes.
And I'm just, for instance, where we live here in White Rock. So here, we live in a little place called White Rock. It's kind of a small community here along the coast, right north of the U.S. border.
Yeah.
And of course, what's happened is that you go up to the Semiahmoo shopping center, and all these seagulls are sitting around waiting for somebody to drop some food, because we've taken all their habitat. They have no food to eat.
Mm-hmm.
Yet then people say, well, don't feed the birds. By the way, my wife does, we say whatever we can, and she gets cat food, and we go out and kind of have to go quietly out there, because if they catch you, we find you a big fine.
Uh-oh.
And, we feed the birds.
Your wife is my kind of lady.
Yeah, and we have a mother raccoon who's been coming to see us for 7 years now.
Oh,
7
how
years.
cute.
Yeah,
So
and
sweet.
so every evening, my wife finds a way to feed them, even though our neighbors keep turning her into the city, and they come up with their bylaws, managers, and so forth. I think they did find her one time.
Uh-oh.
But
Well, shout out to your wife. Tell her I said thank you for doing that. I'm also the type of person that would drive around with a bag of cat food in my trunk to feed the ducks after work.
Yeah, exactly. And so and I was away this last in 2024 for a few months, and went to Thailand to do some healing work for myself. And so she was here. These neighbors really kind of took advantage of that, but she didn't care. She'd find ways to get that food out, because those raccoons can smell for at least a mile.
Mm.
Yeah.
Now
They're so cute with their little
I'm not
hands.
saying, by the way, that means that we completely have our animal relatives become dependent on us. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying we have to also have some compassion. Because what we found out, I'll give you an example. About 7 years ago, this mama duck and her husband showed up. The husband had a bad leg, couldn't walk. So my wife tried to get the Humane Society, somebody to come try to take care of the mallard, the male, but they wouldn't come. So she decided. So she took care of them all summer long. They slept outside, right outside this, stayed right up by this tree outside of her house. My wife would go out and make sure they had food. Until he still had he kind of walks like this.
He's got a real waddle.
Came time for fall, off they went. Springtime comes. Who shows up? Walks right up to our door. Is this mallard and his wife? He's still that limp. They come back for 6 years.
Oh.
And of course, the fact we were feeding, that was our neighbor got upset because we were feeding these ducks. Well, we found out in talking to the elders from here, where we live used to be a lake.
So that was their home first, just like everyone else.
That was their home. That was all these animals for first.
Yeah.
So I think about all the food we waste. That doesn't mean we have to encourage people dumping things out, encouraging, because they're saying, oh, there's lots of rats and mice and all that. But it doesn't mean that we can't have a way to take and just not waste this food.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, it's because right here, there's no way they can get enough. There's no way.
Yeah.
There's no way.
I'm so
And
glad
speaking
that
of wasted food, I know we're talking about animals, but there's plenty of people who need food all around us.
Exactly.
And, people are throwing away food and wasting food when there's actual humans in need that would be very happy to receive some help.
Exactly.
It's just now one project. If any of your any relatives here who are here, what we're doing right now is a little community on the Standing Rock called Wakpala. That's the community of Chief Gall. They're about a little community, maybe 250, 300 people. The average age is 21. They have not one piece of gym equipment, not even a basketball.
Okay.
For these 200 and some young people. So we're doing a little. We've been able to raise. I think the whole total is $15,000. We've raised over almost $10,000 towards this gym equipment, setting basketballs and so forth and so on. So anybody, I'll share that. So if anybody wants to share with that initiative, it's one that's really important to us.
Absolutely.
Because these children, my gosh, I mean, things we take for granted, like a basketball.
Yeah, really.
I mean, or just to be able to play badminton. Now, that's just one of the communities, Wakpala. Then you go across the Chain Buttes over there, and then you come to a Little Eagle. That's where our son danced. Their average age is 18. 18. People are dying around 55, 54.
Oh, geez.
Then you go over to Bullhead. That's where Sitting Bull's camp is. 18 years old. Average age. These are just young people. And, 90% unemployment, 90% impact of alcohol and drug. In fact, everybody's being alcohol because of the lack of even hope.
Mm.
So it's so important that I think, I'm glad you really talk, because it's true. We have to be kind to animals, but we need to be kind to human beings.
Right.
Sure.
Right.
Mhm.
I mean, that's a quality that we have to have, is to be kind to human beings and realize. And even then, I mean, we have so much work yet to do as a human family. And we look at the food we're eating. I mean, it's just, I mean, what they're selling us to eat.
It's
I know.
hurting us. Yeah.
Huh?
It's harming us.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, and actually, I mean, I think the creators of some of these foods know that.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Yet
they do
we've
too.
become ourselves addicted to sugar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, I'm not gonna blame anybody, because again,
Hmm.
no one can condition their own soul except our own self.
Yeah.
And that is such an
we have to
important
all make
reminder.
the changes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's such an important reminder. And I'm so glad that you were able to share this message with our audience and spread all of these stories and all the wisdom that comes from it. And I really would love to think that everybody that's currently on this call right now and everybody in our audience that's going to watch this show is going to be pioneers of ushering in the fourth way. And I just feel like that would be so cool if we could all be pioners of the fourth way.
Exactly. And I'm really looking forward to sending you some of because I love to write, and what I found, by the way, what I found is I wrote a lot in my life, but I'm finding, that for us, we draw on AI when it can help enhance our message. We don't have AI create our principles. We already have our principles.
Yeah.
We already have all this, but if it can enhance it, if it can help bring it to a greater understanding, because now you can put something in there you've written 20 years ago and enhance it, bring it up to date.
Yeah.
Then you can say, okay, translate this into Thai.
Yeah.
Next thing I have a thing translated to Thai. I mean, it's just amazing to me.
It's amazing.
I mean, I can only type with one finger, so I'm pretty busy.
You're funny.
I want to add one more thing here that I think is so important.
Okay.
And that's something that took me a while to come to. Because it's easy, very easy, by the way. You've all been through tremendous struggles. It's very easy to be a victim, or see yourself as a victim, or see yourself as in this manner. But I truly believe that our Creator, this great mystery, would not punish us for walking in a good way. I believe the last 500 years, you might say, not only the last 500, we go all from the beginning of time, has been a preparation. We've been prepared for this very day we have.
Wow.
Because the one thing we have to share if we've been through abuse, and that's to forgive.
Mm.
So I believe we've been prepared. I believe that whatever we've been through, we don't understand it. We've been prepared, whether we can see it, because we're on an eternal journey. We're just getting started.
Yeah.
We're just beginning.
Yeah.
It's just like this universe. My gosh, they go out with these telescopes, keep going farther and farther and farther and farther, and now they've gone around the moon.
Yep.
And I can remember 1969. There's prophecies that said that someday an eagle would fly as highest in the night and land on the moon.
Oh.
That is a prophecy. It's shared by a number of different indigenous nations.
You think
Wow.
Artemis was that?
Literally, huh?
Do you think Artemis was that?
Mm-mm.
No.
No.
It was the first. It was the
The
first spaceship.
one.
The first words they said to the world was, "The eagle has landed."
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
The eagle has landed. That's an actual prophecy
Wow.
shared by a number of indigenous people. I can remember when it happened. And that's, by the way, that's when this whole new awakening would begin. And sure enough, you look back at the late 60s, early 70s, that's when you see this whole movement coming up. Wounded Knee, all these different things. All of a sudden you see, till today, more and more people are looking to, not that, by the way, we have just as much to learn. Every human being has to learn, but we all have things to learn from each other. That's the thing to know.
Mm-hmm.
And so, that this is what we've been prepared for right now.
Yeah.
Not tomorrow, right now.
It's an interesting time to be alive. That is for
It is.
sure.
Oh,
Wow.
I mean, think about it. Wow.
Yeah, really. We've come a long way, but like you said, we have a long way still yet to go. But I'm excited that we're all here together right now in these earth suits, as you call it. Typically, I call it a meat suit, but it's fine, same thing. But yeah, I'm glad that we're able to have these kinds of conversations and to bring these kinds of conversations to other people so that the ripples can just keep spreading throughout the water. Like we're here to make ripples, and I find it highly appropriate that your background has water because like we're doing that. You know what I mean? So
I was thinking about perspective too, because behind you all is like the perspective looking at Earth, and then he's got like Mother Earth literally like being here, and then I have the light body, which is like how we are in this Earth suit. So like it's pretty neat. I don't know.
Yeah, it would. In an effort to close out today's show respectfully, is there a song or maybe a prayer that we could experience to wrap this up?
Yes. You know, this song was shared with me back in 1973 by a dear brother of mine, George Whirlwind Soldier from Rosebud. He's since passed on to the other side camp quite a few years ago, but he shared this song with me, which I treasure. And I'm not a big, I have relatives of mine that have hundreds of songs, but I'm very limited. But I sing them with the utmost fervor, with all my soul. But I love this song because the words say Wayonkie means behold this, see this, witness this. And it says Chinupa Kile Wakayalo. It says the sacred pipe is holy of holies. But what is it saying? It's saying the mineral people, which make up the bowl, Mother Earth, are women in another way. I mean, there's so many spiritual understandings. That's the bowl of the pipe.
Okay.
And the stem, that's the plant people. All right. And then you'll find with every, so the mineral people have a power. It's a power of cohesion or unity. I mean, that's what gives us our unity in our bodies is a calcium, the mineral people. In fact, they give, if you think about it, everything around us is given body structure through our mineral relatives. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And of course, we are mineral relatives, primarily water.
Yep.
Then from there, you have the plant relatives. They contain in their, by the way, their frame is from the mineral people, but they also have the power of growth. And we begin to see this synergy we have. The plants breathe in carbon dioxide, breathe in oxygen, we breathe in oxygen, breathe in carbon dioxide. So we see this relationship. So you have the stem of the pipe. And you always see, maybe a piece of buffalo hide or an eagle feather or something from the animal relatives. So the animal relatives contain the mineral people. What gives them structure are the mineral people, the same as us. They have the power of cohesion. They have the power of growth of the plant people, but they also have the power of the senses. In fact, even more highly developed than ourselves. That's why people couldn't understand how do these indigenous people know what weather's coming. Well, certain little birds, if you watch them, certain horses, they'll move in a certain way because the tympanum in the ear is like a barometer. And they can sense pressure changes we can't sense. It can be a completely clear day, but animals will know a storm's coming.
Right.
They'll move in a certain way. Well, after you study, if you watch and study and realize and see everything is sacred, having a message to give you, that everything around us is a message. It's something to teach us. Then you learn that. So then you say, it's a pure day. Well, a big storm's coming. Well, people hear you say, what do you mean a big storm coming? It's a clear day. How do you know that? You must, is that magic? No, it's just watching animals.
Observing.
Okay, so that's the power of the senses. So then, when you take the bowl, which is, you might say the female, and the stem, which is male, and you put those together, boom, you create this life, so to speak. And so you have this unity of our humanity. Then you again, there's so many more deep meanings to this. I'm not any expert. I'm just learning myself. I've been at quite a few years, probably at least. Almost 58 years now I've been at this, but I'm still just learning. Really clear.
Aren't we all, though?
Oh my gosh, it's just so overwhelming. And so, but then you take that tobacco. Each little part of that tobacco represents a different part of creation, one meaning. And you put it into that pipe. You tamp it in there. So in a way, when many things were used that way, so you take that loaded pipe, you hand it to somebody. Usually you'll see somebody go 3 times People will refuse it because it's what that's saying is, this is really a profound thing you're asking me of me on the sacred pipe. So you'll see them refuse it 3 times, and then the 4th time they'll take it. Just showing how the respect you have for that sacred pipe. And so we use it in different ways like that. Okay, but then when you actually smoke it, in a way, the fire represents the tests and difficulties we go through in life. And you put it those disparate parts. In a way, when we come to this world, we're like that pure pipe. We're not haven't differentiated yet. We don't understand how this fits together with that fits together. We haven't come to oneness. But when you you light that fire and you bring that smoke, it's literally a reunion, so to speak, symbolically with all things, because they're all joined together through the fire.
Yeah.
They become one.
I love
They're
that.
no longer disparate parts. They become one with the smoke. And of course, then that was, that happened to be one way. That's just one way of praying. Different people had different ways that they utilize, or tools they utilize that brought them in harmony with the spirit. And for myself, one of the things that's really has great meaning in my life is the sacred pipe. Because it just gives me that feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you understand. But you see, otherwise, if people don't understand what each part of this symbolizes, and then people can even deepen that understanding. But the thing is, the foundation is womankind, the life givers, Mother Earth, the life giver.
Yeah.
Father Sky, or giving the energy to Mother Earth. You might say that to birth these seeds, so to speak, that she has within her. So it's so, there's so much depth in these teachings, but there's so much depth in many teachings. I mean, I've tried the best I can to study every. I've read the Quran a number of times. I've read the Old and New Testament a number of times. I've read the Mahabharata, Ramayana, Zoroaster's teachings.
Yeah.
Lord Buddha's teachings. I've tried every way I can. Baha'i teachings. All, to me, and I find that the spiritual teachings are one, even though human beings can twist them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
They twist them, and they abuse them, and they use them to hurt other people. But that's not how if you go and look with an open mind, it doesn't say those things. It's like you can twist anything.
Right.
I haven't found any of these sacred teachings that says hate people.
Right.
Right.
Well, I'm glad for that.
Me too.
I'm sure some people that teach hate, don't trust anybody, hate people, and it's not.
Yeah, it's the twist. It gets twisted, and people turn against each other for those false reasons, basically. But yeah, love is really the foundation.
Unifier.
Yeah.
Unifier.
Yeah.
And that's why I remember. I think it was Bertrand Russell, or one of those old, I shouldn't say older thinkers back in the 40s, said that gravity is metaphysical love.
Ooh. I think I'm going to add that to my quote list.
What's holding everything together is gravity, really.
Yeah.
Right.
And gravity is kind of like what holds us together is love. So the whole universe is love in a way. If we can see it that way.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah, I think we should conclude on that note, because that sums up everything so perfectly. Chief Phil Lane, thank you so much. I feel like thank you is not even good enough, because you just shared, generations worth of wisdom with us in a small 2.5 hour period of time. So I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. I know that we are super excited to hear this. I'm super excited to share this with our audience and get your message out there. And like you said, we would love to have you come back on another time. So we will definitely schedule that. Is there any last pieces of advice or things somebody would like to say quickly before we close?
But maybe I should sing that song I was telling you about.
Oh yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
Okay. You have it in there. So here's that song. Wayankie, Chinupa Kile, Wakanilo, Wayankie. Wayankie. Wayankie, 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 Chanupa Kile, Wakayelo, Wayankie, 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 Chanupa Kile, Wakayelo, Wayankie. I'll just leave it there at 2 verses, and I'll include these next 2 verses here later in the day. That's Shumpmano Hemeyedo, Chinupasaba Medo, Halmi Chante Washte. My names are Chinupasaba and Shumpmano, and I stand fully responsible for all my words and actions before our creator of all good things. Halmi Chante Washte. Aho.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And for our
you.
audience that's sticking around, please do us a favor and smash that like button, click subscribe, ring our little notification bell, drop a lovely comment down below, and share these videos with your family and friends to help us spread the good word. All right, Chief Phil, we do a 3-piece hand gesture closure. I'm going to demonstrate it for you quickly, and then if you're willing to join us to do it together, that's cool. If not, that's cool too. We do much love, peace, and namaste. Are you down to join us?
I'm down to join you.
All right, here we go, guys. Much love, peace, and namaste.
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 Namaste.